James, how are you doing?
Very well, thanks, Michael.
Excellent. Yeah, great. Well, hey, thanks for contributing to the Marshall White Way. And our topic is really focused in on pipeline management, and that's something that you and your team do remarkably well.
Thank you.
How about we first of all talk about what's your sort of philosophy or the strategy and the approach to have to it, and then we'll talk about how you structure that and communicate frequency and so on.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
In regards to the structure, I suppose it's everything that was probably been passed down from the more senior agents here at Marshall White. And then how you structure it, you break it up in stuff that we've gone through before with yourself. Your A pipeline, your B pipeline, your C pipeline, and then also what we would talk about it in a few minutes' time, your buyer-seller pipeline as well. I suppose A, B and C, and categorise really the whole process of your pipeline is, I suppose, qualifying the leads particularly well, and then being able to put them in the right categories and categorising them correctly. Your A pipeline, we tend to in our team, that's sub 30 days, 0 and 30 days, there'll be a decision made within that time frame. Your B, between 30 and 90 days, so almost like quarterly, something more than likely to fall within the next quarter. And then your C is anywhere up to probably 6 months or longer, a bit longer term. Yes. So a bit less frequent, I suppose, connection or touch base with those clients, and then you have your buyer sellers who are in this marketplace going to be becoming increasingly more important, and that's another category, which is a subcategory of the pipeline. Yeah,
and this is someone who said, when I buy, I'm going to sell.
Yeah. So
you've got a different kind of service focus with those people, don't you?
Yeah, very much so. I think particularly in the present market, look, there's been a lack of stock out there for a lot of the buyers out there. Well, that's what they've felt anyway, and so as such, they're very, very targeted in what they're looking for. Yes. So if you can work with those buyer sellers on that side of things, knowing full well that they've got that home, which is the next step for them, they're more I suppose they've got they're less likely to come to the market unless they know they've secured something well. So if you can piece them together, it's a great, field to work in if you can get those buyer sellers.
Absolutely,
in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the other thing is, if someone hasn't got a desperate need to sell, they're going to stay put until they find that next property. So if our energy is about helping them find it, it can help navigate that well and truly,
easily,
and massively build your reputation in the process.
Very much so. Very much so. Because when you're dealing with that, when you are searching for them, you are building that rapport constantly with the buyer seller on that side of things. And so I suppose with an A, B and C, particularly with the A's, you're in immediate competition against all your competitors out there in the marketplace. So that buyer is, I suppose, getting a lot more service from a lot more competition out there. Where with a buyer seller, they're not actively in the marketplace. So you're actually having, I suppose, a bit of a free rein to be able to work with them and to build up that rapport, which if you do secure it for them, it makes I suppose, securing the listing on the other side, that you're already head and shoulders above your competition. It makes that listing that much easier for you.
Absolutely.
The rapport is already there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So really what this is about is having a place and a focus for people who aren't ready yet, but being able to, from a time frame point of view, put them into the slot as to what level of frequency and what quality of communication that you'd have.
Correct.
Would you prefer someone to be 2 or 3 months out from listing, or someone who comes in at that 30-day mark? I mean, anyone's good, but which would you prefer?
I'd prefer probably to have the longer term, to give yourself more time. Look, to build up rapport does take time. A lot of this business is about trust. You're dealing with someone's principal asset, the only thing the tax man can't touch. And so, look, it's one thing that, it's probably their biggest commercial transaction. So they want to feel that the person who is representing them is trustworthy and trustful. It's very difficult sometimes to build that trust over a short time if you've only just come into contact with them, i.e. through an OFI or such, when you've just met the person. And
suddenly you're at a listing appointment,
exactly
and
right.
you haven't had any additional time to build a rapport and put those things in place.
No, exactly right. A lot of that rapport is built upon the brand more so than yourself. I think with the longer term, the pipe Bs or the pipe Cs, that's built upon yourself and your own ability to win their trust. And if you can win their trust, then look, you are probably pretty much halfway home.
Most definitely. Yeah. So as a team, how often would you have focus in on your pipeline and so on?
Look, as a team, look, we do 2 whip sessions a week. We have a whip session on a Monday and also on a Wednesday morning as well. And that's basically the whip on a Monday is, it's part of our team meeting, which we do have and structure our whole week and week ahead. And we also just each one of the team members in our team there's 5-6 agents in the team. I'm trying to count them all now. 6 now in the team, and what we do is we tend to run through the Pipe A's mainly, and a few of the Pipe B's as well, which are coming into transitioning into Pipe A. So they're the main people we do target, and we target as a team. We try and structure much like the sales meeting, a general sales meeting, which we do have with the company wide. But as a team, we tend to really try and tailor it specifically, much more so into the buyer, and try and strategize exactly what for the seller, the vendor, what we're trying to really, how we can win the business for ourselves.
Yeah. So so you'd be covering things like, well, what's the next step with these people? Where do you think we're at? What's something we could do to give us a leg up or elevate us from a position point of view to win the business?
Exactly right. If it's simply something like finding out, an executor's estate, find out who the solicitor is, just any sort of little way, something different to be able to give yourself that advantage. If you find out who the solicitor is who's making the decision for the family, or it will be making the decision in concert with the family, sometimes they have influence over the executors. Or sometimes they are the executor themselves. So if you can find even that little bit of information, they may have a connection with one of your other team members or someone internally here at Marshall White. That can be that little bit further, and it's that strategizing that goes on in those team meetings or those WIP meetings that we have, which makes a little bit easier for you on that side of things.
Yeah, fantastic, great. So that literally puts Pipeline A well and truly into focus. Pipeline B and C, is it up to each individual then to
I think
move
so.
it forward?
I think so. One of the great things about working here at Marshall White is also you've got such a wealth of the senior agents. So, you're working with the best in the business. When I came in to the business, I remember thinking, things like accountability sheets and whatnot. Well, I know what I'm doing, and it doesn't really matter. I don't need to record it and all those kind of things. Yeah. But it didn't take me long to realise, no, you do. You need to be following everything because things will fall by the wayside. Yeah. So with the things like your Pipe B and Pipe C, I think what I've found in my accountability sheets and constantly keeping my accountability sheets up to date and whatnot keep me on track with my Pipe B and my Pipe C, because they can sometimes fall by the wayside a little bit when you focus solely on the immediate business at hand, which is those Pipe A's. But it is, as we mentioned just before, it is that rapport which is being built up with the B's and the C's, which makes it so much easier to secure that business. So if you do keep those touch points up with them, when they are a little bit further out, they're feeling that they're being stroked, if that makes sense, and are being tended to. As such, it does make it that easier for you. So one of the things that I talk about is frequency builds trust, well and truly. So if we start to have a look at your Pipeline A, what sort of frequency and what would be a typical conversation? What's your reason to call them is you'd like them to list with you, but it's got to be a reason that works from their point of view, doesn't it? Sure. I suppose, look, if it's someone who, well, there's one at the moment which is hopefully will fall in the next 30 days, hopefully before the side of Christmas, for the early in the new year. They're unfortunately they're not on the ground here in Melbourne. They're overseas, and the contact with them has been constantly about weekly almost in regards to updating in regards to where the market's at. It's not something they're aware of. They are a family member making a decision in regards to an estate situation, but they're not on the ground in Melbourne. So just to show them exactly what Marshall White are doing, exactly what our team are doing as well, and myself as well. And those type of things, I suppose, just trying to really just show that you've got the runs on the board, and that you are knowledgeable in what you're doing. Your company has the market share in the area as well, and just those constant touch base with them as well. So
would that be like a weekly email, or is it a Skype call? Or?
Yeah, look, with them it's very much an email at the moment. We're still trying to gain trust. Sometimes it's a bit more difficult when they are just
without the face-to-face.
Without the face-to-face, exactly right. If it is someone who is also about to fall soon, that is face-to-face. It is trying to get in front of them. It is trying to, I suppose, just constantly be providing, I suppose, a benefit to them. It's always about providing benefit to them, them and the decision they're going to make and make them the right decision and what benefit Marshall White can be so that they can, get the optimum result for their property.
Yeah. So really, you look at it from 2 points of view. What's a valid reason to talk, to touch base with this client? What can we talk through with them that adds value to them in the process and advances them closer to building trust, rapport, and connection, and choosing you as the agent of choice in the process?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Pipeline B, what sort of frequency would you do?
Oh, look, Pipeline B, as I said to you, with your accountability sheets, what we do is with our team as well, we've got an ideal week, which we structure around that. Your Monday's all for your buyer callback and not from the weekend. Tuesdays tend to be when we're working our pipes in regards to that. So
I like pipes. It's
more than one.
Yeah. Pipelines like pipes.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Well, you do. You need to be constantly looking at all four really that I did mention before. Weekly, a weekly with the Bs. The Cs not so much. Maybe a little bit longer because look, sometimes with the Cs, I think you can have sometimes too much frequency or it can be too keen at that early stage.
Yeah.
The only time you would really want to touch base with someone is if you are adding value. There's no point just ringing up, seeing how things are going without being able to have anything to be able to talk to them about.
Yeah.
So market updates and such, how the market transgressed last weekend, how it's looking for this weekend, what we have coming up, maybe down the pipeline for the company, which is something which is similar. Maybe have some buyers we may be able to run off that. They're the type of calls that you put through which are adding benefit, but just the frequency of them with the Cs needs to be a little bit less. But B's definitely weekly.
Yeah, fantastic.
A's can be daily sometimes when it's about to fall.
Yeah.
B's weekly, and then C's you're probably looking at monthly, maybe monthly.
Yeah.
Maybe even shorter as they start transitioning themselves into the B's.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing you say is you're reading the play as you're having this conversation and you're working out when do I need to touch base next.
I think that comes down to your qualification, and I think that comes down to the rapport that you're building up with them. It makes your job a hell of a lot easier how you categorise them. As I mentioned before, it's about the qualification with them to find out exactly what their time frame is, to know how you categorise them, and then therefore once you know how you categorise them, what the frequency of that contact needs to be.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be like that, but not doesn't need to feel so, I suppose, structured. It needs to feel much more like it's just a natural flow, like you're talking to someone, and that's what you need to be able to bring across as you're being able to qualify them.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Well, look, really appreciate you chatting through Pipeline. Anything else you wanted to cover off on?
No, that's hopefully that's okay and
it's
satisfactory,
really
and lets you know exactly what's going on. What we do.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for your input to the Marshall White Way.
Pleasure.
And I'm sure that when everyone within Marshall White embraces Pipeline the way that you have, it'll make a massive difference to their results.
Definitely. It's something that makes your job a hell of a lot easier. And if you get it right, it's onwards and upwards.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. No worries. Cheers.